Beyond the Wild.
It's go time.
Countdown's over.
Yeah.
Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Wild podcast. It is spring in most places. I know some areas have had warm weather and throughout most of winter, unfortunately, but we've had a quick melt here and a bit of snow coming, but it was amazing how quickly the 3 feet of snow has vanished this week. Lots to chat about there, but before doing so, my esteemed co-host, Jason Loftus, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing really good. Yeah, we have a lot of the same situation here. We've actually been getting a little bit of winter now, which is, kind of ironic. But yeah, nothing in the valley, lots of cold temperatures, a little bit of some snow in the mountains, which has helped. But generally speaking, it's definitely warmer overall this year than we would have liked to have seen. But yeah, I'm ready for I'm getting a little bit of spring fever here, getting ready to go chase some spring activities. So.
It's amazing how quickly it changes the mindset when things warm up and the days feel longer. And so with the snow in the mountains, I would lend to some landscape opportunities, some aerial drone coolness. If you had time, if you weren't working so much and just came back from Alaska, twist your arm, if you had the time, it sounds like it'd be pretty.
Yeah, I'm going to try to find the time. It's always a balancing act, as all of us know, especially of folks that are doing this and having fun with their passion when they also have a full-time job and family and grandkids and other things and priorities, so, but I think I can sneak away for some drone activities here in the next couple weeks for a weekend, and won't be much of that going on with everything else going on, but definitely looking forward to getting out and every chance I get to go fly the drone, even here locally, which is an opportunity that I haven't taken much advantage of. So there's some areas that I definitely can go do some of that scenic stuff like you're talking about, Mark. And yeah, looking forward to some of those things. Looking forward to PhotoX coming up, sometime here in May, and more will be announced on that, I'm sure. And we're hoping to all be together for that here in Salt Lake City. So just kind of a little bit of a heads up for folks, and maybe you find the opportunity to come and participate in that at Picture Line's PhotoX outdoors, and that'll be mid-May, I'm sure. But more to come on that, I'm sure, as well. So anyways, hopefully we can get all together and have some fun, Mark, and talk about all things photography and meet some other folks in person. And, it's never hard for us to talk about photography, right? As much as we talk about it, there's still way more to talk about. So
it feels like we're just getting started.
yeah, right.
What else is there? Come on.
I don't know.
Animals, photography, birds, bring it.
Right.
I have the weekend of the 16th, so I don't think they've officially announced it, but just to put on everybody's radar, because that's not far away. We're into March, so May 16th, 17th, if you're in the Salt Lake City area, it would be excellent to see and to meet people and to talk cameras and more. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm hoping to be there. Everything still has to be finalized coming out, but it's exciting to look forward to. And obviously grateful to everything Picture Line does to support Beyond the Wild podcast, so that we are here weekly to share, our experiences and perspectives, but as much or even more so, our guests sometimes, they're all wonderful and all have a great insight, and love getting to meet new people through this podcast on the show and in person. And there's a bit of a void tonight. It's called the absence of Ron Hayes. And he is not here tonight, unfortunately, but we're going to run through some things, Jason and I know Ron sends his best, and we look forward to having him on in the near future. It's just a scheduling thing. But we're going to run through some listener questions that were sent in a couple of weeks ago. We did a bit of a tip episode that were shared from listeners. So thank you to everybody who sent those in. We've got a few questions tonight, and we're just going to do a catch up because it's been a bit since we've had the opportunity. We had Scott Keys on recently. It was a great guest and a wonderful episode, got wonderful traction on YouTube. Encourage you to watch on YouTube. As we've said before, our producer JG adds all kinds of fun content, especially for guests too, or when we talk about trips. that stuff comes up where there's images and videos as we're talking, and it's just a little more interactive. But we appreciate, talking to listeners. Not everybody has the opportunity to sit and watch on YouTube, and the audio podcasts are there for every other situation, such as driving, or one of our most loyal listeners in Australia, he tells me he listens to the audio cutting the lawn and then watches on YouTube later when they have a chance. I watch when I'm editing on YouTube, just have it playing on my phone off to the side of the computer. And it's great if you, just as far as YouTube traction, I mean, it's all part of the science of algorithms nowadays. The sooner it's watched after release helps. And of course, any of the ratings or comments help too. So thanks to everybody who participates in that. But it's, it's good to see you. And I've seen some wonderful images lately from your trip. You have a great year lined out, and encourage it's springtime. People are thinking of that. I can ramble on in 6 different directions right now. I'll pass them on to you for a moment for what's been going on.
Yeah, no, Mark. But definitely, we always miss Ron. He's not able to make it. And it is his birthday today. I won't say what the day is we're recording this because he may not want his birthday out there for everybody. But he's got other stuff going on and can't make it tonight. So we always definitely miss having Ron on. And I know he adds a lot of value to the podcast with his humor and the banter between us all. But yeah, I do have a pretty crazy year ahead of me. It's been like that for the last 3-4 years. I'm a pretty fortunate person. There's no question in my mind, but just got back from Alaska. We'll talk a little bit about that. That's a trip that I've been thinking about doing for years to go photograph eagles. And I learned quite a bit on that trip. It was more of a scouting trip than anything, but was able to come home with some pretty neat images and better images than I've ever, been able to get of eagles. But if I were to think about my year coming ahead, I've got Africa coming up in summertime. That's probably the next big trip I have. And that's definitely a big one. If folks remember, I was caught up in the whole issue where the servers had problems, the Microsoft servers with the airlines. And that was a couple years ago now. And I was not able to make it to Africa that year because of those issues. And I was very bummed out. And most of the folks were able to make it still. And they had an incredible trip. So looking forward to getting back to Africa. That's always hard to beat. And I've only, this will be the 3rd time I've been overall, but really looking forward to getting back there. Actually, no, this will be my 2nd time. What am I thinking? That last time was my 2nd time. That's what I was thinking, and I didn't make it. So this will be my 2nd time going to Africa. And then after that, I have some family trips in there mixed in, which is exciting. And going to go on some elk stuff in September. And then, that pretty much consumes my year. I might try to do some sheep stuff, deer stuff like I normally try to do, but those will be quick trips because I'm just out of vacation. And I get, I get a lot of vacation. So I've been with my company for 30 years this year. And so I get the max amount of vacation allowed. And so I'm not complaining by any means. I don't want to sound like that person because I am very lucky that way too. I've obviously earned it being with the company that long, but I do get a lot of vacation, but I use every single hour of it every year between family obligations and trips with them and doing other stuff and then doing the photography stuff. So, but that pretty much summarizes my year. I do want to bring up something real quick. We recently had Nick White on, Wildly Thick of It. Is that right? And him and his wife, Nadine, were here in Salt Lake City recently, this last weekend, actually. They came into town for a conference. They came into Vegas for a conference related to his job at the printing shop. And then they made a trip and visited some places around Arizona, Utah, Nevada and Utah, sorry. And actually came up and I was able to spend a morning with them, went out to Antelope Island with them and had some fun, found some bison, was able to show them their first bison. So I can always have that in my back pocket. I was able to give them that first experience, but what an amazing couple. I mean, I already knew Nick was a great guy and, getting to meet his wife, she's such a sweetheart. And I didn't realize she was a photographer as well. And she actually holds her own. There's no question. She's got some incredible images. So that was fun. Got to meet them and spend, a few hours with them hanging out. And They visited Pictureline, who's one of our, is our main sponsor for the show. And, they were able to meet Colin and have some conversation with him and drop off a gift or two. But just what great people. And yeah, and that's the other trip I want to talk about. I'm actually going to be going to Scotland next year with my wife. So my wife and I will be working with him to understand how we want to create our itinerary to make the most of a trip to Scotland next year, probably April, May timeframe of 2027. So lots. Sorry, I could talk and talk too. You want me to just roll into Alaska, Mark?
It's a podcast. It's about talking. You're
Right?
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Alaska, you kind of threw this trip together. I don't know. It's probably been 6 months ago. We talked about it and decided to go ahead and do it. We were going to do it as a scouting trip mostly. We didn't have anything really scheduled. We kind of threw in hotel stays and that at the last minute. Really not a busy time up there this time of year. It's pretty cold, and they've had a real cold snap. So we had 6 days planned, and that'll play into this a little bit later as I talk about the trip. But we had 6 days planned. We flew into Anchorage and did some driving to try to get some eagles. And when we landed there in Anchorage, I think it was like 15 below zero or something like that. It was really cold. And then when we got to the area where we were going, it was actually more like, it's below zero at night, but in the daytime, it was getting up into the single digits and into the teens there towards the end of the trip. But the reason that plays into this is part of the fun of doing the Eagles, and Ron and Mike and everybody and Mark, I think we all were on that podcast, on the Wild and Exposed podcast, had talked about their trip to do Eagles. And part of the experience to do it right is to get out on a boat with a boat captain to experience the Eagles out in the bay. And one of the challenges we had was the temperatures were so cold that usually you can photograph, the Eagles on land too, depending on the tidal situation and, how much tidal flats you have available and what kind of stuff is washing up on shore. And we focused on that quite a bit for the first 3 days we were there, hoping to get out on a boat on any one of those days, and actually had a day planned to get out on a boat, but the captain had to cancel because the bay for the boats had filled up with ice, and there was quite a bit of ice coming down into the bay and clogging up the harbor. And so the captain that we were hoping to work with was unable to get his boat out of the harbor. So we got canceled, and then the weekend passed, and then we were down to 3 days left, and we're really getting concerned about our ability to even get out on a boat. And things on land were pretty slow because of all the ice. And most of the tidal area was just full of ice. Even as the tide went out, the ice was just laying on the beach area or on the tidal flats. So really limited our ability to do much. We took a few photos, but nothing real stellar on land. As the week progressed, they decided they were going to have a boat come in, and I can't remember what they call it, but they do this when they have this situation. Apparently the boat comes in and clears a path for the boats to get out of the harbor. And so that finally happened, and the captain had to pick us up on the beach, but we were able to get 3 trips in essentially on the next 3 days, the last 3 days of our trip. We actually went with the idea of doing more trips out than that if we could get them, but thankfully it worked out. It was sunny and clear the entire time we were there, but it was super cold. So those last few days, it was actually getting up into the teens, which was nice, but below zero every night. And we ended up having a really good trip. So those Eagle shots are fun. That's something I've always wanted to do. And there's definitely what I found the key to it is getting out on a boat. But the reason I brought up the 6 days is because, again, this is just another example of when you go to Alaska, whatever you think you have in mind, you definitely want to plan more days on either end to allow for conditions that you can't control. And you never know what's going to happen in Alaska. And it's very common in Alaska to have conditions cause you delays and or cause you the inability to do what you were initially planning to do. So I know that's hard for some people to do. And it was hard for me to commit 6 days of this trip too, for sure, because of other commitments like we talked, and that took away from other opportunities I potentially could have done. But, you kind of got to pick and choose every year. We all talk about that, of what you're going to focus on and what's going to be the the key things that you want to, go and try to accomplish. And then you have to try to make sure you can put as much time to those things as possible. But yeah, got home safely and came home with some images that I'm excited to share. And hopefully I'll be able to get some of these done and edited up for JG to put on the podcast here. And I did a couple video clips. I'm doing more and more of that. I've learned that I need to do more and more video clips for the podcast mainly, if anything. But I also playing the Reels game a little bit on Instagram. As much as I've complained, they've had some, and I'm sure other people have seen this as well, but they've had some creator options, and I'm sure they're putting them out to people sporadically. But post so many reels on Instagram and Facebook, and then you get paid so much money. And I'm sure it varies by the person, it varies by the creator, but I am trying to take advantage of that. So if folks are getting sick and tired of seeing reels from me, that's probably, just so you know, that's why I'm doing it. I'm playing the game, and I'm trying to go ahead and make a little bit of money on this, the social media side of things, take advantage of that. But I'm also trying to put up content that, might be interesting to folks as well. So taking lots of cell phone videos over the years with the trips that I've done, and piecing some things together from that perspective for that. So watch for that if you are, on social media, and watch for those opportunities to come your way and take advantage of it. Right. I mean, if we all complain, or Jason complains a lot about social media lately. And here I am, playing the game on this one because it's very clear on how to make X amount of money by doing this thing. And that helps a lot for me. If I have a set goal and do this and get this, then I can play that game. I have a hard time playing the game where you have no idea what you're going to get for whatever you might be doing. So maybe they're trying a different model to see how many people they can get engaged in playing the game, so to speak. But it's working for me on this one. I'm going to go ahead and try to maximize that. So anyways, I don't know if you've seen that, Mark, but
yeah. And you are, my friend, a professional podcaster. I bailed on him a second ago and had to run to my office for a little bit of a script that I wrote this afternoon from a call. So, and he just kept going. It was excellent. And there's things I'd like to touch on about the Eagles in Alaska, but since you opened the social media Instagram thing, no, we don't get paid in Canada. What? Oh. And I received a message maybe late last week from Instagram offering to reach out to creators to have a 15 to 20 minute phone call to give tips, advice, how to work with the platform as best as you can with their insight. And so, of course, I'm going to say yes. It happened once before last year as well. This one was a little more engaging, which was good. And it was just this afternoon. So it's timely that this came up. Oh. But at the end of the conversation, this nice young lady said, "Do you have any questions?" And I didn't ask about money from Instagram. And now I'm like, why doesn't Canada get paid for that, just like those in the US? That would have been a perfect one. I did ask about hashtags, and she was like, well, they still put it, the images still get out for a few hashtags to the general audience under those subjects, but it didn't sound like those are where the traction's driven now. And it was Reels. It was. So I'll pass on a few of these tidbits of advice for those of you who are wanting to have the Instagram algorithm work to your favor. It's something to try. That's all I'm at with it. I don't know if it'll pan out or not, but this was the advice that this lady had shared with me. And she said 3 to 4 reels per week. She didn't say, I asked if it could just be one video or a compilation. And she was under the impression one video is fine. It didn't have to be a compilation of them. But what she did at the end of the call with a little bit of asking, the biggest part about the reel success is the hook, the first 3 seconds. And she gave me a couple of ideas that I hadn't necessarily thought about to get the hook. If for me, it's wildlife videos. So she said, you have a moose doing something funny for the hook, but it's not often that case. Sometimes it is, but it was, what I'm going to do is you can voice over or text over the beginning. And the text over works as a hook. If you can keep the viewers for 3 seconds on your reel, the algorithm then recognizes it. And it's to do something like, did you know that animals can do this? And it leads into, it creates a question, it creates a spark of curiosity and, seasonal transitions, behaviors. But I'm liking that idea as far as creating something at the beginning with some text or a voiceover, or it could be the video. Lots of people put their faces up, but that wasn't necessary for success on this, according to what she said. But
That
something
could
to
hurt.
catch
That could hurt
attention.
for me, but
Well, I have some really funny hats. You could wear
yeah,
that.
right.
Guaranteed they'd watch for 3 seconds. Um, so that was it. The 3 or 4 reels and the hook at the beginning, because then people watch longer. And since that conversation, I had been on briefly tonight, and I did notice reels, some of them doing that, and it was effective for me. I held on a bit longer.
Hmm.
As far as posting images, I said, well, is it okay just to still post one image? Of course it's okay. It's what we do. But I explained in the beginning, that's what this was about, the app. And as a professional, that's what I do. I create still images, and it's a shame not to have them get more traction like they used to. And she's suggested doing them in carousels and putting a selection of them together. You can do up to 20, but even half a dozen. And again, it's the whole purpose of the algorithm seeing people sticking on your post longer, which is what gives attraction. So I'm going to start. I've just edited over 300 bighorn sheep pictures. Woohoo! And, perfect for carousels, whether it's a series of behaviors that took place, like a head butting sequence or running down a mountainside or through some snow, something that makes sense or tells a story. That'll help with that. The other things, the reels vertical was again emphasized over horizontal. It fills the screen, it'll get better traction. I know we don't all shoot in vertical. There's sometimes I notice on the app, and there may be video editing apps that you can crop a vertical from your horizontal. And if you shoot in 4K, which on our smartphones, it's, that's everything I shoot is 4K, so that it can be shared for the screen. If we have people over, family, friends, it looks great that way. Why not? There's so many segues. Just a quick reminder, shooting in 4K 60. They said shooting in a frame rate of 30 or 60. I'm shooting in 4K 60, but that eats a lot of memory. So I've had good luck with the Lexar Pro add-on that just mounts on the bottom of the smartphone on my iPhone and records, as I've said on the podcast before, it's 4K 60, but it can shoot in ProRes. I think it's a greater dynamic range. There's significant file sizes, but anyway, great quality. But Instagram is better at 2K. So what you upload will get more traction at 2K than 4K because it doesn't lag for the viewer. And that was something that she said. If it happens quickly, it doesn't take longer to load in. And dynamic HDR range is the other thing. The 4 things she said about Reels. And to follow your inspiration tabs and get ideas from that as well. So that was basically what was talked about. And
Hey, Mark.
One other thing, sorry, was in
Yeah, no,
edits.
go ahead.
She was, and I get it. I mean, they create these other apps. So Edits is an add-on app for Instagram for photo editing, but it's supposed to be catered to your style. As you create videos in there, video editing, sorry, it will recognize what you're doing, and it's just a place to do that function. But if you create your video through Edits for Instagram, it sounds like it will get more traction because they want edits to get traction, right? It's the common sense behind it. But to play the game for those that want the growth, that's what the brief conversation shared with me. Sorry, Jason.
No. I just was going to ask a few questions because I've been doing this the last month. I posted at least 10 reels on Instagram, and they had to be posted in a 10 days time frame. So, that should have met the thing you're talking about. And I actually lost followers And I think part of that might have to do with just people that aren't used to seeing reels from me, quite honestly, which is fine. I mean, I wasn't doing it for the followers. I was doing it just to try to get this money from them, right? If I'm being honest. But I was kind of surprised to see the followership drop in that time frame. And then, you mentioned something else, and my brain just went.
Edits?
Yeah, edits.
No.
Thank you. When I posted a reel not too long ago from edits, the photos that I put in there, the color was off, like bad. So
Oh,
I included some videos with cuts in with photos and that from my catalog too. And I was really, I was bummed out about that. And so when I'm doing photos in there, I refuse to use edits. And I wish I'd have been part of that conversation, because I'd have shared that with them to say, if you want, I'm happy to use their edits. It actually works really well for doing reels and stuff. It's pretty easy and user friendly, but I'm happy to do it if it worked properly with the photos piece. So, but and so I've stayed away from that. I've stayed away from adding photos into my reels just because of that issue. And the edits, for what it's worth, I've been using the edits program or app, and it is pretty user friendly and easy to use. And it does come over really easy into Instagram. But other than that photo piece, it's keeping me from doing that. But just a little bit of commentary there.
sounds like it's still evolving, the app. And because I tried a reel, I posted a bighorn ram a week or so ago, close up with some breath, walking toward the camera in slow mo. And I did it in edits first. And when it was finished and I saved it, it had something in the bottom right said completed with edits AI. And I'm like, well, I didn't use any AI that I'm familiar with. I mean, I
Right.
didn't, right? So I didn't post that video because of that little thing in the corner. I don't want any viewer of my feed to think there's AI, because there isn't. And
Right.
so I mentioned that to her, and she was quite surprised. And they were going to look at that internally, because that's not supposed to come up unless somebody does use AI. But I didn't do any changes to the edit. It was just that video, and I was just running it through the app, which is, again, it's free, download on the App Store, uh, just to play along. And the follower thing, for me, just to be clear too, isn't a numbers game as much as just, we work hard as those that are selling images or tours or what it might be to create great content. The greater the reach, the better for business, right?
Sure.
It doesn't have to correlate with a follower number. And that's, I said to her, with the number of followers I have, if there's 44,000 followers, thank you, everybody out there. It means so much. But there's like 100 people that interact. So it's like, and she kept, as she would with yours, and so many of our listeners have such amazing images. She was like, wow, your work's wonderful. And I'm like, well, then, instead of hundreds of people liking out of the 44,000, anyway, I didn't go on
Yeah.
for long about that because I didn't want to be negative, but it's not the way it used to be. So I was encouraging some more direction for photos. Not that that would get any weight there, but the real stuff, it's interesting you say that. I like the combination, because the photos, as everybody listening, it's a skill set. You know that, to capture these images using these tools, these cameras that get better and better, mind blowingly so now every year or two. What we have is incredible to work with, but it's the effort of being there, the light, the catch light in the eye, the subject. You create the still photo, but I love marrying it up with some video from the scene if there's time, right? If you're in a
Right.
place for a week and you have time to do both, and not just for social media, but for friends, family, for yourself. A year later, you open that raw file or open and the video's there, and you watch it and say, "Oh yeah, that I just." So I would hope that the viewers wouldn't be bothered by videos, because it just is a part of being there. In many ways, it makes them appreciate the situation more so, I would think.
Right.
So that's surprising, because, yeah, if you're doing what was requested and it dropped, that's not really motivational, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And just another side note with this, I've done this too, where you can create a reel, which is a video using just images. So instead of a carousel, you can actually, and I've done this, a couple of the posts I did were reels, but they were just a carousel of images, if you will. So they don't have to swipe necessarily, right? But I don't know which one works better, and I don't know which one would get more, traction, honestly. Because I think there for a while they were really pushing the carousels. And if you were posting carousels with lots of images, they were getting a lot more traction than just images and or even reels, is what I understood. But one thing I've noticed is that I post to both Facebook and Instagram, and this experiment I'm doing actually includes both Instagram and Facebook, and they're really pushing more on Facebook. It seems like because they were wanting 20 reels on Facebook. So, and I've noticed I've gotten more traction on Facebook with those reels that I've been posting than I have on Instagram. So, anyways, my follower count actually has gone up on Facebook and it's gone down on Instagram, but it's not significant. I mean, I'm not complaining by any means. It's just, it's interesting, right? When we do one of these things and to see the numbers and see the data and see the reactions that you get from folks that are in tune and listening and wanting to see your content, right? And so it's just data for everybody to consider. But from my experience, it was an increase and more traction and more views on on Facebook than it was on Instagram. So
Yeah, and at the end of the day, content creation's fun, right? I mean, I love it. It's sharing what you've experienced or what you care about, what you're passionate about.
it is
It's
fun.
yeah. I'm going to experiment with that. I'm going to try reels with the photos and then carousels and similar number and see what the difference would be for
Yeah.
traction too.
But that hook thing, Mark, that's a great little tip. I mean, I don't think I really was paying attention to that piece, right? And it makes sense. I mean, and the 3 second rule, didn't know that either. So, what can you do on your content to grab people's attention to either want to make that first swipe or stick around for that first 3 seconds, you know? So, it's good.
Yeah, and that changed this week too. And as far as reels or posts, if somebody likes it, obviously it works. But if they don't stop and watch the first 3 seconds or something, it doesn't get traction on the algorithm. They're somehow recognizing a longer pause instead of just going by to get traction. But yeah, there's ways to draw people in for those first few seconds, and so many of you listeners are excellent at it out there. And it's just something to think about. But yeah, I didn't even think that we were going to talk about social media tonight. So thanks for letting me run to my office.
Yeah.
But as far as Alaska and your recent trip, I mean, we all dream and hope that success happens right out of the gate. The pressure's off, right? But it shows something for perseverance and patience, and it happened by the end of the trip. And there's people, I won't name names. I'm tempted to because of their perseverance. Have done a trip. Wasn't with us. Ours, knock on wood, have always produced, but did a trip for a species and didn't get them, and went back the next year and had a home run. Right? It's wildlife photography. It's so the end of the trip when you come home is just as good as the beginning. And so, and your images of the eagles are outstanding. So
Well, thank you.
that.
But it is, you are right. It is a good lesson. And I mean, by day 3, and we hadn't really heard much from the captain, we were seriously considering, like, should we just pack this in? We are burning vacation time and time away from our families to try to get these photos, and we are not having success. But thankfully we stuck around, and like you said, it ended up panning out. But yeah, so it is a good reminder to all of us to remember that wildlife is wildlife, and remember that any day it can turn on a dime, and you could have some of the greatest experiences of your life, depending on what you're chasing. So
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing to touch on before we get off of the Alaska stuff, being out on the boat in that cold weather conditions, was there any wind? Any tips on gear to make that more successful for you guys?
yeah, stay in the cabin while you're getting to the locations, So, but yeah, no, the boat we were on, there was only 3 of us in our group, and the boat we were on, we had plenty of room in the cabin with the captain, and there's heater in the cabin, and so it wasn't terrible. Actually, the first boat ride out, we didn't know what to expect, and I was bundled up pretty dang good because I was expecting to be out in the cold. And then, the sun was nice, and you're out at the point of the day where it's probably the best temperature of the day. And as you get photographing, your adrenaline gets pumped up a little bit, and found myself actually stripping layers when we were out there on the boat, actually shooting. So, probably overdressed the first trip, and then the next couple we kind of had it nailed down. But yeah, gloves are a must in that kind of weather. Obviously, good gloves that you can actually photograph with, and had the old toque with me as well, and wore that the entire time I was out there. So good coats,
Quite
good, just the
perfectly, by
normal
the way.
clothing, right? Yeah, yeah. But yeah, nice layer up like always. Like we always talk, with layers is key, and just warm boots with good socks or whatever, so your feet don't get cold. And anything you can do in those conditions to try to stay warm makes your experience that much more enjoyable for sure. So I've done quite a few trips with Arctic type conditions, and learned how to plan accordingly and to stay warm, and to make that trip as enjoyable as possible. So
Yeah, I picture. I just actually a day or two ago, I was flipping through my photo album looking for something, and I came across the video of you in the wind in Churchill in early last November. That fits.
yeah, I was thinking about putting that as a reel at some point here. Some of those conditions, it was fun, and I'm sure you experienced it too while you were there. But
That's part of it, right?
yeah,
And
it is.
it's there are days if you're lucky you get some sun there, and then there are days with blowing snow. I mean, that's kind of weather attitude. Love to have a polar bear just in the snow, right?
Yep.
Coming out of the snow,
Yep.
mythical.
We actually had a polar bear on that experience, and there's a video clip I have of that too. And it was impossible to photograph him, and he wasn't far away. But with those conditions, literally sideways blizzard, But again, you embrace it, right? When you're in those environments, it's part of the experience. You embrace it. We stayed out on it as long as we could and enjoyed it and watched the bear do his thing, even though we couldn't get photographs. So I have learned to enjoy all those aspects of those trips, and it's all about the journey, right? It really is. You get some images, and at the end of the day, that's the icing on the cake. And even our recent trip to Alaska, even though it wasn't going as well as we would like to have gone, and if we'd have got some images right off the bat, it would have been way different, I think. But still, try to enjoy what's given to you. So easy to say, harder to do, but
Yeah, I mean you're there. It's a new experience, or even if it's a repeat, it's a different environment than your everyday life. You have to
right.
try to make the most of it, or be patient if the weather is that bad. You can't be out in it. But
Well, you
yeah,
can't
looking
for
forward.
short periods. So just go and
Sure.
enjoy it.
Yeah. It's yeah. Can't. Uh, Days in the field are my favorite of the year. I mean, just all this editing season, is still waiting for some magical editor on the computer to just do it right. Not have to
Hey,
sit there.
listen, it already exists. And I'm going to say this just because it's something that Nick talked about while we were together.
Okay.
But he literally told me in that conference, and I don't know, I'm not sure how I feel about this, but he literally told me in this conference that there are AI tools out there today, right now, where wedding photographers, very professional wedding photographers, are going on a trip and are going on a shoot, and they take all their photos. And before they even leave the shoot, they upload all their images to AI. And the AI, they've programmed it to cull all their images, apply their style edits, and deliver them to a website for the customer before they even get home from the trip. And they don't do anything to those photos themselves. It's all done AI. Now it's done in their style. And you still can do some things where you have some options to, check the culling to make sure that that's the right thing. But this guy that was doing the talk for Nick and them claimed that he has no issues. He trusts the culling. He trusts the editing. It's spot on, nails it every time. So that's interesting to me, and again, I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I get it if that's your business and you're trying to make yourself as effective as possible to do as much as possible and maximize your time. It's another tool for people in business. He's still taking the images. It's editing in his style. It's what the clients want. They go to him because of that style. And if the client's happy at the end of the day, then, I don't know. It's interesting. AI is coming at us faster than I ever thought it would. And it's already a huge part of what we're doing as photographers and videographers. So I don't know. Interesting.
I'm actually editing in my office right now. This is all generated just so you
Nice. You're the
just
AI, but you're actually editing.
Yeah, no, all right, that's the wrong direction. The editing should be, but yeah,
Yeah.
how do you folks feel about that? It's something to digest and think about. Let us know. I mean, we'd love to be able to share some comments on a future episode. So send us a message on Instagram, on YouTube, and let us know about the thoughts of AI editing. But we have, there's different ways to look at it. Our cameras are so advanced. To me, it's the time in the field, it's the boots on the ground, the fresh air, all of the natural elements and the wildlife that we're experiencing is where I want to be. The camera is so advanced tool now. I mean, we won't get into what's happened in that in the last 30 or 40 years. My goodness. How much of that is automated, right? So we still have to be there. We still have to find the spot, be there at the right light, be creative compositionally, recognize good light, know the animal or bird behavior or what the landscape situation is going to do when the light hits what. We have to balance all of that. That's to me where the creativity is comes from. So I I mean, for me, if I could take 4 or 5 months and not be editing, but be in the field, I take that trade every day. If the computer will edit it, the computer on my camera captured the image. I had to create it, or we all did, by being there, recognizing light. I mean, light's the most important element of quality photography. And then there's the behavior, all the fun elements. That's where the excitement comes from for me, the passion. Editing, we've talked about it a lot in the podcast, is creative too, with all of the tools the programs offer us. But if we were able to set it up in a way that would create the output that we already like and save sitting on our butt in front of a screen for hours, days, and weeks, could be in the field, could be doing something else active, I'm there. But let us know. I mean, like there could be, you know, other things to consider that might not be popping to mind. But I mean, life's short. Editing is not, it's my least favorite place to be, but it's
Yeah.
necessary. It's fun to be creative that way, but I'd rather be creative in the moment, in
Right.
the field.
Yeah, I
Shut
think
it down.
it's something to consider. And I know you've mentioned it before, Mark, how you would jump at the chance to have AI do your photos so you could spend more time in the field, and I enjoy the editing process. I don't probably edit near as many photos as you, but and so there's a piece of me that I battle with that, right? I hear you, what you're saying. There's more time with my family when I'm home and not in the field. It's more time to be in the field. It's all of those things. And I think there's a value to that for sure. And maybe it's okay. Maybe that's fine. I mean, it's okay if it's your personal choice, regardless. But there's no rule to what you have to do as an artist or what you take advantage of from an AI in that perspective either. But I guess even just for you, is that okay, right? As a person,
Mhm.
individual that's doing the photos. And I mean, you make a really good point. If I could be home and not editing in my office and spending time with my wife and kids or whatever, my grandkids, you know, there's a lot of value to that.
Well, what we take the B-roll on the smartphones almost always is perfect. It's done. Maybe we hit the auto adjust, tweak a couple little things. It's very minor, right? The amount of playing with various tools and in photo processing software takes time, and to just speed that up
Yeah.
is always welcome, just because of the volume. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, and
certainly keen to hear interest or other perspectives. Sorry.
yeah, no, it's funny. I'm sorry, we're going to fill up the whole freaking episode with this, but it's really interesting. So Nick did mention too that there's actually, I don't know if it's an app or just AI tools that you literally can just plug in those little B-roll clips and stuff and some photos, and it'll create a very good looking reel for you and post it as well. I mean, you can set it up to where you just basically load it with the content and it'll create a reel to the recommendations and the timing and the whatever else you want and post it for you. Like literally tie it right to your account and post it. So
Hmm.
again, even when you talk about this, social media thing, there's tools out there available as of today. I don't know what they are and where to go find them, but I'm sure anybody that wants to could find them. And there's probably folks that are listening that are already doing it, right? So, I mean, that's a time saver too. If you're not the type of person that wants to be on Instagram scrolling, but you want to try to grow your content and or grow your listener followership, or get paid from Instagram and social media, there's an opportunity there as well, right? So it's really interesting how this is changing the dynamic of photography and the way we do things and our interaction with social media and all those things. So
Yeah, I think, I mean, this is a maybe a debatable statement, but because maybe it's not considered authentic, but if it keeps your image authentic and doesn't change it in any way you wouldn't have already through the software, through Lightroom or Photoshop, it's still the same output, then is there a problem? Is it still authentic? But I mean, again, the software is already allowing us to do it. And some of it seemed automatic that, yeah, it's as you said, it's incredible how quickly it's evolving. And yeah, I'm not familiar with these tools yet to expedite that process, but I'd be keen to learn just because life is short and I'd rather be outdoors than at a computer any more than I need to be, right? So fun stuff to contemplate. But yeah, share your thoughts and insights, especially if it's something we've missed on it. I guess here's a happy thought. This is from a friend of the podcast. I grabbed it off her story, Chris Herrig. I like these little things once in a while. Your smile is your logo. Your personality is your business card. And the way you make others feel is your trademark. I mean, why not? I love it. I love it.
that's a good one. I really like that.
So we have a few listener questions. You want to dive into them a little bit?
Yeah, let's do
Are we
it.
ready for that? Okay. So yeah, okay. Wandering Pelican on Instagram says you love all. Sorry, correction. You all love metal prints for your photos. What do you think of acrylic medium?
Yeah, that's I've only printed a few prints via acrylic, but the ones I've done have been pretty incredible. From my experience, I don't know if you have or not, Mark, but from my experience, what it does is it really creates some 3D depth to the image. But it is quite a bit more expensive and it is quite a bit heavier. The piece, gets quite a bit of weight. Matter of fact, usually when you hang it, you have to, have a little bit better. Make sure you're into some studs or some real good drywall brackets or whatever to make sure that the weight, it can handle the weight. Because I did one, I think it was 16 by 24 of a tiger that my daughter wanted and did it for her. And it came with some pretty heavy duty hanging materials. And it was probably, I'm trying to remember how much it weighed, but I'm going to guess just that 16 by 24 was probably 25 pounds, something like that, 25 to 30 pounds.
Oh
It
wow!
was it was significant, and I may have chosen they have different thicknesses of the acrylic you can do too, and I may have gone, because of my first one, I may have gone overboard on the thickness of the acrylic. But anyways, I think it's great. It's a great option. It's from my experience, it's pretty spendy, and the weight is an issue. So if you're going to do it, just be aware of the weight aspect of it. Maybe go thinner on the amount of acrylic that you add, but.
Yeah, I've only done one to be honest, and it was an experiment to see what the difference would be. I had a whole bunch of metals done for a project and threw one up in acrylic, and it had the acrylic was probably, would it be a third of an inch, third of an inch thick?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, about a centimeter for those in Canada, and it was a 16 by 24 of a bear cub, and it wasn't. It was heavier than metal, but it was. Yeah, I hesitate. It's a good question for Nick. We should I should run down he is back now with my cell phone and just record his answer to throw in or something. But it's I like the metals so much that the added layer in front of the acrylic and the weight, and if it's more expensive, it hasn't convinced me to switch from the HD metal,
Right.
personally.
Yeah, that's been my experience too. I've only printed a couple and I haven't printed any more. So that tells you something. So
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, I'm back to metal. I tried the one, and yeah, it was fine, but I did it in metal as well, the same one, and I personally preferred the metal on that one. But thank you for the question. Good to think about. I mean, the options keep changing. I saw a printmaker send me an ad this week for metallic photo paper. I mean, I don't know what that's going to look like. Something new. So TX Outdoor Explorer, TX, the word outdoor, X as in the letter plural. How much research or preparation goes into photographing a targeted species? Well, where do you begin? When I was a kid, I started studying ungulates.
Yeah, I got my issue of Nat Geo, and that started it. Yeah, yeah,
It,
that's a good question. I mean, I think it really varies. I will say for target species I've done, it's usually a lot of research and usually includes a scouting trip, if you will, to a location to learn more. A lot of e-scouting and internet scouting and social media scouting. Putting a time frame to it is kind of hard, I think, but I would say hours upon hours of the scouting process and learning more about the animals, the behaviors, where they like to be, where to go to try to photograph them, and then you get as much as you can there. And then I usually book a trip of some kind, whether it's with a guide or without, and go try to learn more about it. And I count it as a scouting trip. My expectations are not high, especially if I'm going on my own. And usually end up connecting, or most of the time get lucky enough to connect. So the more scouting you can do ahead of time, obviously that helps your chances of success. But it's incredible to me when you have your eye on a place. For example, Bosque this year for me. Doing Bosque was a scouting trip for sure, and I'd never been there. I'd heard a lot about it. I've always wanted to go, and but you have a vision of a place until you get your feet on the ground in that location. It never, in my experience, comes close to what you had in your mind, even from the photos you've seen, right? So it's always interesting me to show up to a place like that you've scouted out, and then to see what it actually looks like. And then the light bulb kind of goes off, and goes, oh. And then when you're there in person, the scouting process really begins, and that's when the real work begins, if you will. But the more scouting time you can spend up front, the better your chances you have of success on the ground. But Eagles was like that for me. Bosque was like that for me. Elk have been like that in the past. Places for mule deer have been like that for me in the past. Polar bears, wasn't really that way because I knew I was going on a trip where I was going to have success because of the guides and the tour leaders. But a lot of stuff locally and in nearby states that I do on my own have definitely been that way. So I don't know what you think, Mark.
Yeah, I agree. It's something that takes patience and time. Doing it on a lot of the trips on my own, you can't expect it to be a home run, and when it is, it's amazing. And sometimes it's learning about a species. Yeah, it's one step, one foot in front of the other, because each experience will add to one's understanding of behavior and life cycle. And I it's I enjoy doing it over my career on my own, exploring places. But it's a matter of learning habitat, and some places aren't fruitful and some are, and then you return to those that are and learn more about the animals there, how they exist in that ecosystem, what their routines are, what their daily movements are, where the best photo situations might be for light, or how they behave in different weather, where they're active, where they rest. All of these things factor in and are fun to learn, but takes time. If you're with somebody who knows the area, that expedites the process significantly. And it's honestly my favorite part, and not to go on it too much, of guiding, is sharing the species behavior. And that's the thrill for me, is educating people in a fun way about these animals and why they are what they are and how they behave, and then translating that into the best photo opportunities. So there's something to be said for going to a destination with an experienced guide for that species or group of species that live in that region. But when doing it oneself, it's just being patient, and the learning comes. It's anything else, like in life, right? You still can have magical days or have days that aren't productive, and that happens at any stage of life or stage of career with a new species in a new spot. So, and some things, yeah, it's there's nothing that compares to time in the field for learning about a species. But of course, online, there's so much research can be done to train one's eye to images. What's possible, what the style is that you maybe like to collect of imagery of a species, what seasonality, that's a big part of it. Most of you are dialed in with the species that you love. I was contacted by an international film crew to guide them for, it was originally a week of moose for a production, and moose and other wildlife. And I only had a limited time available between my tours to offer it to them. And it turned out that timeline didn't work for them. So, which was like fall, obviously, for these species. And they wanted to do it in April. How would April be? And it's like, well, we'll see them, but moose in April aren't the photo subjects that they are in autumn, and wouldn't make sense for the expense of the production. So learning about a species, in this case, they were a foreign production company. They didn't know about moose, and they were trying to create the best documentary they could, or this segment of the documentary on the species. But if they needed to learn more about it and realize when to be there, that's part of it. So those that information's online, right? You can learn, or a book, and not just moose, any species. It's out there. Pick up a book on them, read about their life cycle, the biology behind them, and that will help direct to when to photograph them. There's a lot of people out right now at end of winter, lynx mating season, and they're extending tremendous effort looking for lynx. Danny Coyne and Mitch, I think, just had luck on their Instagram this past week, but when do you go for lynx? Well, in the summer, it's hard to find them, right? They're not as active. Their coat's not as lush as it is in the winter. In late February or through February into March, it's mating season. They're going to be more active. It's snow. It suits their environment. So for somebody to check the box of the dream lynx encounter, it's the time of year is probably going to be now. But that takes effort in learning about the species and time, and they're not around every corner, right? So, yeah, just doing research online and then trying it, or going with the guide route. I know another photographer that joins us frequently went with a guide last week and had luck, and I know another photographer went with a different guide last year and didn't have luck. It's part of wildlife photography, but at least they know the area and the best odds. But it's a good question. So how much research or preparation goes into photographing a targeted species? Quick answer: a lot.
A lot. Yeah.
A lot. So yeah, that was from TX Outdoor Explorer JR in Texas. His Instagram has got some wonderful southern wildlife, a lot of white-tailed deer and foxes, beautiful stuff. And on the previous question, because I like to give more than just the Instagram handle, Wandering Pelican Brad is a wildlife biologist and photographer in Michigan, and has some beautiful wildlife and birds from the Michigan region too. So check that out. Next question is from Mark Jones in Australia, MLJ Wilderness Photos. And I'm sitting here, changed scenery tonight because of Sue. We had a video call a few nights ago, and she's like, why don't you sit in front of your fireplace anymore? So here we are. It's not winter. It's not on, so I'm not cooking myself. So Mark's question is kind of similar to the last one as far as species, or it could be a location. What bucket list location or species are each of you going to tick off in 2026? Well, I'm still thinking about it. I'm picturing you in Africa with a honey badger.
I was
don't
just
know.
giving you the opportunity to go first this time, so it's not always me. But
Oh, of course,
I,
sure.
for me, Eagles was one. I mean, it's not really checking out the bucket list, but going out and doing that and very, focusing on Eagles and getting Eagle shots for my portfolio. That was one for me. Going to a location, I count some of those as, bucket list check off points too. Bosque's been on my list for a long time. So that was one for me that I would count. Going back to Africa is not, I mean, it's already been kind of checked off, but I'm super excited about that. But that's probably it for me for the year. Quite honestly, I don't think I'm going to be doing anything that's really more exotic or, like last year was Jaguars and Costa Rica the year before. And, just I've had some really cool trips like that. And at some point, I still would like to go do, uh, the Pumas potentially. And there's actually some landscape places that I really like to go try to do. The landscape bug has definitely got me a little bit more, and I've got so much to learn when it comes to that for sure. So that's intriguing to me, and that's fun too. I enjoy the landscape stuff, even though I've got a lot to learn, and my images are far from where they need to be. But yeah. Anyways, I think all those opportunities are exciting, and it's always fun to try to do one or two of those bucket list trips, if you will, to try to fill that portfolio, and even just to have the experiences with them is always fun too, because that's really the point for most of us on this is to have those experiences, right? And to when you go out there and try to get that new bucket list species, generally speaking, you're going to be blown away and you're going to have such an incredible experience. So I always look forward to those. Every one I've done, I've never been disappointed. And it's just been an incredible experience trying to take in the culture of the local area and the food and, all aspects of it. It's not just about the photos, but anyways, that's probably it for me this year.
Yeah, it's interesting. Your Africa trip, is it to this same location as you did before?
It is to the same area, South Africa,
Hmm.
but it's some different concessions, different areas that we'll be focusing on.
So it'll be
So
new.
I'm excited about that. It'll be the same basic animals, but there'll be different areas, and so there'll be different prides of lions, different jaguars, or not jaguars, sorry, for a little slip there, but different cheetahs and different leopards and things of that nature, right? So, but yeah, it's going to be a 2 week trip this time, so lots of time on the ground and maximizing our time in country with the expense of getting over there, which is not cheap nowadays. So, but looking forward to that.
Yeah, so new settings, and yes, even if similar species. So this is something psychologically intriguing to me. There are different types of people out there. I mean, photography is so broad, and there's so much to explore on planet Earth. And we have many. All guests are wonderful. Some have these lists, and they just want to go and have the experience of that species. But because the planet is so rich with life, it's on to the next species. Done that now. Did moose, did caribou, did bears, did, and moving on and going down this list in different places. And I fully appreciate, that you pointed out, Jason, the culture and the food. And there's so many layers to a new spot that are wonderful beyond the wildlife that broaden our perspectives as humans on this planet. And then there's also people who, it becomes a routine and want to do the same virtually every year. Come back for caribou every season because they love the spot and the experience, and it's a tradition that they develop. And every day, it never gets tiring for me for locations. I've been going to some of them, for 25, 30 years, but they're always different. And it's like returning home, but it's never the same. The weather's different. The animal populations are different. The light is different, but there's familiarity. So when planning, it's interesting to think that there are people that are very driven to always, or most always, do something new species wise or location wise. And then there are those that mix it up, perhaps do some new and then some that they've done before. We have places we go for elk rut that we've been going forever because we love it, and then the community of people that are there too, and the things that you experience. There are other layers, and it's not always, but mostly productive for photography. So those familiar returns are wonderful, but also because it's a wildlife photography, it's not like we're going to sit and watch the same movie in a theater again next month. We're going, and it's going to be different. There are different individual animals or different species we may encounter in that ecosystem. And every trip, this never has become old for me. So it's going to seem boring in a nutshell here. I don't have a new species that I'm checking off the bucket list this year. I'm going to everywhere I'm traveling to this year I've been to before, but it's been this many places, and I love them all, and I'm excited to return. And it's not to say, I mean, new species are fulfilling. I mean, going to a new spot and exploring something is, yeah, it's wonderful for the mind to broaden out that way. And I guess my thing is there's species that I've always specialized in, and there's some new ones, but it's been driven by the profession, by the publishing side, and where the demand was for sales to help support the expense of the travel. Now it's a mixture of that and guiding. So, but I'm guiding things I'm familiar with, which is the same bucket that I get to share with people of species and locations. So it's a good question, but it's something to think about out there. Do you go for something new all the time, or a bit of both, new and familiar, or familiar, right? There's traditions.
Yep. I think a lot of it comes down to your why too, right? I mean, I'm probably the middle one you mentioned, where I try to do a mix. There's things I'm just going to do every year because I love them so much, like the elk rut and things of that nature. But I try to always add something new every year, and it doesn't have to be crazy, but I do think that way. I try to say, okay, what am I going to do different this year? So yeah, it's interesting though. And some people are perfectly content with just doing the same things, that they go in the same places they always go because they have a great experience. It's the camaraderie with the people that they go with, and so on and so forth. There's nothing wrong with that either, so.
Yeah, I like that answer the best. If you can pick something new, something should be new if you have the opportunity and privilege.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as flexibility and schedule and funding and all that stuff.
Right.
But it doesn't have to be a grand trip to be new either, though, right?
No,
Still
it
be
could
close
be,
to home.
it could be very close to home, very local for that matter, right? For sure. So
Yeah, keep that in mind. Yeah, it doesn't always have to be big plans. It can just be allocating time to trying macro, like Scott talked about on the last or 2 episodes ago now, I think. Macro it
yeah,
back, sex, and who knows, textures. There's all kinds of things to get to play with cameras and photography. It doesn't
yeah.
have to be far afield. That's where the mind goes. The bucket list is like, well, yeah, Africa, wow,
Right,
or
right.
whatever it
It's
might
snow
be.
leopards, or it's something
Yeah,
crazy, But yeah, it doesn't have to be that, by any means. So
yeah. Australia for the elusive kangaroo.
I give a shout out real quick to somebody that I think does this really well. Her name's Jamie Bolschweiler, and she's a local photographer here in Salt Lake City, and her work is incredible. I'm just baffled by her work. I'm always stunned by her creativity, her way she composes. She's just a rock star, but she gets out all the time, and she's almost always going somewhere local. It's always within driving distance, and she makes the most of what she can do with her ability to get out and the funding she has available and all those things. But she does not hesitate to get out. The grass does not grow under her feet. And it's always incredible what she comes up with. And she's very open to new locations. She does a mix of landscape and wildlife and all kinds of critters. And it's a good example of what we're talking about here, right? You do not have to go far. You do not have to spend a lot of money. There's a lot of ways to make, to find new places very local, especially if you're in an amazing place like Utah. But, there is an advantage there for sure, because there's so much that's very close that's incredible. But I think that's true anywhere you go in the country, if you're honest. There's things that are incredible about every place in this country and all across the world for that matter.
So I stand corrected now. I may try something new and check something off my bucket list in May, but
Yeah, local. Yeah.
I've never been to Utah. No.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So
Right.
that could be
Yeah.
it.
There it is. I like it.
There's
You got
another long-winded answer made short, Mark. Thank you.
yeah, right. Utah. Okay, let's move on.
I had friends grew up in Utah. And obviously, you as well, Jason. But for decades, have just said how magical it is. And it's one of Pilly's favorite places. I have never been
Oh,
um, to travel. New Mexico was another one that was on that list too. But I've been to the Four Corners, and I've spent lots of time in Colorado, but not.
what were
Yeah.
you doing in the Four Corners? I'm curious.
Oh, I was down with Mike at in
Oh,
Durango where he grew up. So we were
right.
down. He was pointing out we were up at elevation. We were camping up at 8,000 feet and hiking to 11. And I just flown from Ontario. It was fun.
Yeah.
Day two, I stayed in camp. Yeah, after doing the
Oh,
first hike.
a little bit of
Just
an adjustment there. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just the elevation. It was. I
Right.
could tell. What do they call it? What's this sickness for?
Elevation sickness. Yeah.
It's just that, right? Elevation. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the first day I did it. Second day I was like, no, I just better stay here to keep it in check. And then it was all right.
Yeah.
Beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful part of the world there, and fun to see. New place. So Utah, Salt Lake City, picture line. Going to meet Colin. Going to talk moose a little bit with Colin. Maybe I just sneak up behind him and do a moose call and see what he does.
That would be great.
Well, so we have a couple more, but we're at an hour and 10, so we'll save them
Sounds good to me.
time. And yeah, it's always fun to catch up and hear what's going on and share some thoughts and share some listener questions and thoughts as well. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much to Pictureline and Canon USA for sponsoring Beyond the Wild podcast. Keep in mind that we have a wonderful website populated by JG, beyondthewildpodcast.com. There is a merch store there for swag, and there have been orders coming through, and those that you have, we're honored and appreciate that you have it and are wearing it, and it's goes a long way. And of course, there's some other stuff there behind the scenes, access to any of the podcast episodes, plus images that have been talked about on whatever the content was for that episode can be seen in more detail on the website. And yeah. And other than that, Beyond the Wild's everywhere. It's on all the audio platforms that I'm aware of and on YouTube. So easy to find. And thank you for finding us and wishing you all the best with spring. I was thinking at the beginning of today's episode, one of our first Beyond the Wild recordings with Tim Irvin, I described the flight of the American woodcock returns in March. It's one of the harbingers of spring. Any day now. We have turkeys strutting around now that the snow's melting. They're all about it. And the owls have been hooting and actually going a little quiet, the great horns, last week or so. So they're probably nesting a bit. But the American woodcock will be back soon, and their flight dance, if you're not familiar with it, look it up. It's on, I'm sure it's hard to capture on video, but their dance on the ground is one of the coolest in the world. So anyway, that's happening. Every evening, go for a walk now and wait to hear the meh on the ground. That's happened. But wherever you are, I'm sure there's magic of spring happening, and hope that you're able to get out and enjoy it, and even better with a camera in hand. Jason, thanks, man. Always great to have time with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Ron, see you soon. Everybody,
Happy
thanks for
birthday,
tuning
buddy.
in. Yeah, right. Happy birthday. Oh, it would have been so fun to have you on for a birthday episode. You snuck away for that. We'll have to pretend somehow. Yeah.
Yeah. Have JG put in some stills of him.
Yeah, we could.
I've
We
got
could put in
plenty, and since he's not on, they could be some interesting ones. So
we could finish with some stills and stuff for the end of Ron, and yeah.
yeah,
We'll see.
I don't know. Some of them may not be, applicable or allowed to be on public consumption, but yeah.
Yeah, no, just there's some good ones. No, that can be. There was one
sure.
when we did the Seward Peninsula 2 days on a boat, and there's a podcast on that. Captain Bill Bruner, I think, with great job, great great experience those 3 days in the field. But there was one day we were heading back out of the fjord after watching some glacier calving and just being mind blown with the grand landscape. And the boat was going, and I don't know who came up with it. We did a few funny things on that trip, but Ron jumped and held on to the railing and was totally in the air, like he was just flying horizontal. The guy did it. He went and he held himself horizontal long enough to get the picture on the phone. So we'll throw that one up there, and there might be a couple other funny ones, and that's just from that trip. But yeah, good times. Take care, everybody. We'll see you again next week.
Bye, everyone.
And that's a wrap for another episode of Beyond the Wild podcast. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Pictureline.com, your online source for everything photography, and Canon USA.